Hey Steve, what you gonna do for the next video? Well, my friend, sometimes I really have no idea. And this would be one of those times, of course. Dude, you better get to thinking. These videos aren't gonna make themselves. Calm down, big guy. It's all gonna work out. It always does. I have had to write 2 or 3 ideas down before, put them in a fish bowl, swirl it around a little bit, and come up with something. It will be fine. We're here to guide people about personal finance, wealth building, building emergency funds. There's plenty of topics to choose from. It's going to be okay.
I have an idea!
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that Oscar-worthy performance. Not. Thank you for my twin for joining me today. And a special thanks and shout out to the Croods. That's one of my favorite all-time scenes from the Croods. Love that movie. It's hilarious. Thank you so much for joining me. Turns out I do have an idea, which is great. I want to give a special shout out to all the creators out there, YouTube, that week in, week out, sometimes daily put out content that I personally watch and am very impressed with. I know how the struggle is real sometimes to come up with ideas for videos, but big picture, when you really look at it, there's tons of ideas to help people with their financial journey, and that's what I love to share with people, how to help them, of course, build savings, get out of debt, and build wealth. You know, the dream is ultimately to build wealth and become financially independent. That's certainly my goal. It helps me to do these videos, as I always say, to hold myself accountable. And, you know, I do the research and I learn ideas for myself. I love to share those ideas. Turns out today that I have 3 ideas that I think will be beneficial to myself personally and to help you if you so choose to watch all this video. I have a bonus tip at the end, which is unrelated to the first 3. I think it's pretty helpful though. I had never heard of it until a few years ago, and then I didn't even know it was a thing. Apparently it's a thing though, and we'll discuss that thing. So if you're new to this channel, I would really help, you know, appreciate it if you would take a sec. There's this red lettered subscribe button. If you could just press that, that would be great. Let's take a look at that gray ugly thumbs up. It looks so much better whenever you press it and turn it blue. That would be awesome, amazing, really helps my channel. Been very impressed with the growth. Like I say, I don't do this for any other reason other than I just enjoy it. It's honestly become kind of a hobby. I hope that I am providing some type of benefit out there. I know it helps me. Without anything else being said, thank you for joining me today, and we're going to go ahead and get started with today's video. Okay, so the Bureau of Labor and Statistics did a survey, and it turns out that Americans, on average, annually are spending 62% of their income on 3 different things. These 3 things are housing, food, and transportation. So today we're going to tackle all 3 of these, and there are ways to save on all 3 of these. These are your biggest expenditures on average for an American household. So without tackling the big things in life, we're never going to look at, you know, of course, increasing our wealth, building savings, those type of things. A lot of little things do add up. I've said it before, but these are 3 huge things that can really make a household difference as far as like your disposable income and, you know, attacking debt and those type things. So we're going to get started with food first. And some of the helpful tips I have for food, I've talked about in the past, but it's worthy of repeating again. One of them is don't go out to eat at lunch. I love to go out to eat. I love going through the drive-thru. It's real handy, real quick, but it is very expensive. You figure $8 a pop stopping by that fast food restaurant whenever you could have meal prepped. I'm not a big meal prep guy, but, you know, I do like taking leftovers. I know my wife does that, and it saves, you know, if it were both of us eating out every day, it'd be $16 a day. And, you know, that's huge weekly, adds up monthly. So there. take leftovers, take a sandwich, take a bag of chips, even, you know, meals that are already prepared, basically like small bags of chips. It's still, in the long run, a lot cheaper than, of course, going to a restaurant. So the next tip I have is, as far as grocery goes, is couponing. Me and my wife in the past have really been huge couponers. Anything we bought, we went out of our way to make sure we had a coupon. If we did have a nice, you know, several coupons for the same item, we'd go ahead and try to grab as many as we could, because, you know, typically there's lots of items you're going to keep using. Might as well go ahead and buy in bulk, which is another tip and a good segue to that. When you can buy in bulk at Costco, Sam's, or even Walmart sometimes, it's, in the long run, mathematically cheaper to buy that big sack of sugar, that big sack of flour, that big whatever, green beans, if you will, whatever, to buy in bulk. You're going to have it. You know you're going to use it. This is something I've struggled with in the past, but my wife has really emphasized how much, in the long run, it really is cheaper. Takes up a little more room in your house, which is an issue, but hey, it's okay to save a buck. The next item on the agenda I was going to talk about was the, as far as food goes, is to always have a list. Lists are very handy if you force yourself to follow it. Also important, if you're going to go in that store with a list, make sure you're not hungry, because I don't know about you guys, if I go in a grocery store and I'm hungry, it's on. The back hatch of our SUV is just going to be loaded down. Now, during the period of time and what we've been going through recently, over the past several months, one thing that we have found very helpful is to have a list, but do it online. Go pick it up at Publix. Go pick it up at Walmart. Seems to be that when we do that, we end up saving a lot of cash in the end like that. We have the list. We know specifically what we need. There's really not a lot of impulse buying that can go on when you're sitting in the parking lot and you're just having it delivered. It's also very convenient. Found it to be a very enjoyable experience, because I absolutely can't stand going to the grocery stores. My wife will tell you, cannot stand it. Not a fun time at all. As far as food goes, I also encourage people to use apps like Ibotta. I don't know these apps. My wife is way better explaining how these things work than I ever could be, but I do know that there's some cashback features. She scans her receipts. Worth looking into for everyone. But again, to reiterate, food is a huge, huge, huge part. It actually comprises over $7,000 on average for Americans. So if you can save anything in the long run, it's really going to pay off, because that's a huge part of Americans' budgets. I also wanted to share the tip before I forget, and I always try to say this. In one of my earlier videos, I got a lot of laughs about Hunt's Ketchup. I'm going to buy Hunt's Ketchup. There are certain products I'm not going to do this with, but when you can, with bread, mayonnaise, milks, whatever, everything doesn't have to be name brand. You know, you can get the great value milk from the Walmart. You can, not everything has to be the name brand product. You'll find yourself saving tons of money over the long run, and it's just as good as product as, you know, what you would get if you had the name brand. So with food, that concludes food. We're going to move on to transportation now, and several tips to go over with transportation. According to Car Direct, the average vehicle driven new off the lot and purchased depreciates 19% in the first year alone. Now, fortunately, that number drops per year after that, which is helpful, but it doesn't help you in the meantime. That the fact that if you've bought a $26,000 or $30,000 vehicle in the first year, it's just plummeted in value, if you think about it. I could give you the standard standalones, and I will real quickly. Go for the cheap gas. Keep your oil. You don't necessarily have to, on every vehicle, change every 3,000 miles. It can be changed every 5,000 miles. Those are, you know, the typical go-to how to save money. But whenever you're talking about big picture thinking, like we did with the food, looking at how much per year, the number two in expense is certainly transportation. So we got to start at the beginning and for the true savings in selecting what you're going to be driving. And I would encourage you to buy used. It's something I haven't always done, but it's something I'm striving to do now. If you can find you an $8,000, a $10,000 vehicle, it's certainly in the long run, in my opinion, going to be way cheaper than going out there and buying something new and having to pay all that interest and having to make all those painful payments, getting yourself in debt. In the long run, if a young person it would behoove them to find a clunker just to get them around, maybe fix it up as you go along. And when you start saving a little money, you can turn around, sell that car, take some of your savings, buy yourself a little nicer car, and so on and so forth, to a point where, you know, hopefully you find yourself not having to finance a car. Huge expense whenever you look at it. You know, I know certainly things are going to break, things are going to tear up. Some people may say, Steve, but if I buy something new, it's going to have a warranty. I hear your arguments on that. You can leave me some comments. We can talk about it. It's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial genius, but whenever I look at it and I think it through, when you're looking at $30,000 versus $10,000, $8,000, if I got to go out and repair a transmission or something like that, you know, it's going to stink. It's going to be a couple of thousand is what my reach. On average, it's a couple of thousand, $2,000 to $3,000 for a transmission. You know, versus I'm making a monthly payment. That vehicle didn't cost $26,000 in the long run. It didn't cost $30,000, because if you're financing that vehicle, you're paying huge amounts of interest on it, and it can be upwards of, you know, before you're done, $40,000, $45,000. Who knows? I mean, like, it's just outrageous depending on your credit. A lot of factors go into that. So whenever you're looking at your biggest expenses, certainly think through your decision whenever you're looking at that transportation. Again, you can look at, you know, the little things like the gas, keeping your vehicle maintained, but starting it right back to the beginning. What am I driving? Am I literally trying to keep up with the Joneses in my selection, or am I just trying to get from point A to point B? Because that's something you're really going to have to weigh. I don't know about you, but I think Dave Ramsey says it, and I love it when he says it. The Joneses are broke. And I apologize in advance if anybody's out there last name Jones, not meant to offend or anything. But it's just one of those old jokes that's hilarious to me, that don't keep up with the Joneses. With that being said, we're going to move on into housing, our biggest expenditure as Americans. So we'll get on to that topic. Okay, now we find ourselves at the big kahuna, the housing. When you look at these three, food, of course, is the smallest amount of the big three. 62% of our annual income goes towards transportation, being next, and housing being the big enchilada, the huge one. We're looking at, you know, making a huge down payment if we're able to. That's what we really want to do when we're purchasing a home, a first home. In many circumstances, that's not the best option for you. A lot of times it's better to stay at home if you can, as long as possible, and save up. Renting in the long term is probably going to come out cheaper. But what you don't want is a situation where you've come in and you have bought a home, and then you don't have any money to put away for savings. You don't have any money for you know, other expenditures, because that is such a huge piece of the money going out. It's going to be your housing. So, and if you're like me, whenever I went and bought my first home, I did not have a great down payment. Typically, it's, you know, if you're under 20% of the value of that home and you go in there to get a loan, you're going to have PMI, which is a type of insurance to secure the mortgage for the lender against default. So you don't want to have that. That's an extra expense. That's an extra, you know, money having to go out. The bigger the down payment you can pay down, of course, the rate a lot of times is going to look better, and the overall monthly payment is going to look tremendously better. So that's really should be the aim whenever you're talking about housing. Money Under 30 recommends that the payment be around 28% of your pre-monthly income. So that's something to bear in mind as well. folks, that leaves you enough money to put in savings. That leaves you enough money to look after your vehicle. It leaves you enough money for some fun. I mean, and savings. And you know, you can't put yourself in a position, or I would recommend you don't put yourself in a situation where you're house rich but you're life poor, meaning you don't have enough money really to do anything else. You know, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about keeping up with the you-know-who's. Don't want to see anyone kind of fall into that trap. So what I've written down actually in my notes was buy according to your means. You know, look at what you have coming in and look at what you possibly could afford as a payment. So that's something huge to keep in mind whenever looking at housing. Backing up to transportation for a second and housing. Whenever you're looking at your transportation and your housing situation, I know it's not always possible, but try to live close to where you work. You don't want to have to, you know, looking at your transportation and your vehicle, you know, that's huge. Living close, not only are you going to be happier living closer to where you work, you're not going to be on the road, but you're also not going to be wearing out your vehicle, your tires, needing more maintenance, those type of things. I wanted to back up and just kind of cover that. As promised, I had a bonus tip. I have an aunt that I had never known this until a few years ago. She started working at a factory, a textile type mill, whenever she was right out of high school. And each time, I was told this story, each time she got any type of raise, any type bonus, any type anything, she slid it straight to her retirement fund, never touched it, acted like she never even got it, which I think was ingenious. I think she was well before her time. Folks, I learned there's actually words for this. This is called lifestyle inflation. She never fell into the trap of, I'm getting this extra income, I'm going to think of it, I'm going to go splurge, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go take a cruise, I'm going to go party, I'm going to go do whatever. She looked at that as a blessing from above and, you know, instantly placed it in her retirement to, you know, looking out for her future. So I thought that was just ingenious and wanted to share that. That's something I certainly did not do. It's something that, you know, I'm looking to do in the future. I'm trying to encourage my kids to do it, and some of my little cousins and my little nephews and nieces. So, with that being said, I really didn't have anything else to cover. That concludes this video. It's run a little longer than I planned for it to, but I do hope that some of these items have been of value. I really hope that, in particular, folks who have not moved out on their own, they're going to college, they're just starting out with life, I'm hoping some of these things will be helpful and things that they take into consideration as you get out there in this big old world of ours, because I think a little bit of delay in gratification and not necessarily trying to keep up with others, because that seems to be kind of a recurring theme in this video, is going to help and pay off in the long run. We really need to focus in on, you know, building, you know, getting yourself to a situation, you know, life will take care of itself later, but your future self's going to thank you so much for taking these little sacrifices, these little delays in gratification over the long run. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a great week, and I will catch you next time. Thank you.